Hello, beautiful soul, and thank you for being here. I am so happy you are joining me tonight or today, whenever you are viewing this, because it is finally time to celebrate my beloved Kali Ma. If you are joining me in this series during the celebration of Navratri, a very blessed and beautiful night 7 or day 7 of Navratri to you. Today is the day that we celebrate Goddess Kali, or Kalaatri, as she is known in another form and another name. Whether you are joining me during Navratri or not, I am so pleased that you can take part in this celebration and new understanding of Mahakali with me. I have become exceedingly close with Mama Kali throughout the last few years, and it is my hope that this video will live on and inspire others anytime she, as the goddess and holy mother, is calling you or reaching out to you. So please know that although this is originally recorded during the Navadurga series, it is usable anytime you wish to connect with the goddess Kali. And I also want to give, before we jump in, a special shout out and thank you to my friend 𝑇�𝋹��, who created this gorgeous goddess painting that you see here. She allowed me to use it for this video to help present Kali to you. This is absolutely one of my favorite images of the goddess. I believe that it makes her more approachable to those of you who may be fearing working with her, or fearing or confused as she's coming to you for maybe the first time. And just the power of Kali is also in here, even though it's not the ferocious, let's say, imagery that we're used to in more traditional Hindu iconography. And if you would like to work with this piece further, you can check the links in the video description to go to Claudia's website, and she currently sells this as reproductions on canvases of all sizes, altar cards, pendants, which I have, and it is also included in her Sacred Mothers and Goddesses Oracle deck and app via Blue Angel Publishing and Ocean House Media. So you will find the links to those things below if you would like to work with Kali or the other forms of goddess that Claudia presents. By the way, I have animated this image and added some extra energy to it as we are going to be talking. Feel free to look into the goddess's eyes. You will find some stardust there if you look closely, and of course her third eye is open and shedding light upon you. This can be used as a meditative image, and you can actually look into her eyes, which is one of my favorite things, and thanks so much to Claudia for depicting her in this way. By the way, before we get into more talking about Kali directly, I invite you to find the number 9 that I found somewhere in that beautiful orange fiery halo or crown of Kali's. And as we know, the number 9 is sacred in numerology and spirituality, but also in the 9 forms of Durga, or the Navadurga, as we have been celebrating these 9 nights and the full Navadurga series. So check that out, look for it, and I also invite you to meditate with this imagery, meditate with the light codes and information coming through the sound of my voice. Feel free to close your eyes if you'd like, and you can also do stream of consciousness journaling and see if Kali is presenting any new information to you and the ways that she would like to work with you via the light codes in this channeling. And if you would like to connect with and work with the other aspects of the Navadurga, remember to click the link in the video description to check the full Navadurga and Navratri playlist that I have been presenting. In that description, you will also find my website and ways to work with me spiritually, as well as other goodies and more. So with all of that disclaimer being said, let's get started. Mahakali presents most often as this gorgeous royal blue color or a black color in her skin tone. She is known as a dark goddess. She is the most ferocious incarnation of the goddess Durga, but it is important to remember that she is ferocious only to darkness and to demons. She is also ferocious to things like ignorance and things that can be considered internal demons, which is why sometimes people still fear working with her, and we will get into that. But to her worshippers, to her devotees, to her children, she can be extremely and extraordinarily nurturing. And it's also why I love this imagery by Claudia, because I myself was afraid, quite frankly, to work with goddess Kali. And she was presenting to me for probably almost a year extremely strongly before I was ready to look deeper and to take her invitation and to really invite her in. So I want to encourage you, if you are someone who has been getting signs of or from Kali and have not been sure if you're ready to work with her, I hope that getting to know her in this way can encourage you to form your own relationship with her. I want you to remember that deity and mythology, these things are part of Source. And in my opinion, Source is all powerful, all encompassing, and extraordinarily malleable. So they can present themselves however we most need, while the information that I present or that Claudia or anyone else presents can be powerful and accurate and validating and enabling of truth and a relationship with these beings. They are only a guide. So by all means, take what resonates and leave the rest, and always be ready and willing to explore your own relationship with these gods and goddesses. And as long as you believe it to be true, as long as it has proven true to you, trust that and trust the relationship that you can form individually with them. We're going to get into a whole bunch of symbolism as we've been doing in the 𝑓𝑗𝑗𝑔a playlist. I will also tell you some of the goddess's story and mythology, but I really want to start by telling you more of my connection and my story with her in hopes that it will be an inspiration. So as I said, she was presenting for about a year before I accepted her. She presented during a time of extreme change for me. Matter of fact, in Claudia's oracle deck, Kali presents as the goddess of endings and beginnings. She is also a goddess of change, and we're going to talk about how she is associated with the ages or the energy ages or sectors of our universe as well. But because she is so associated with change, with endings and beginnings, this is why I find a lot of people can be resistant to her. A lot of us resist change, right? And most of us who resist change do so because we have had an unhealthy relationship with change. We've had a relationship with change that has been traumatic, that has been one without our consent, perhaps, chaotic, and without a proper support system or foundation. And so when we grow up in that way, we often develop this unhealthy relationship with change where we catastrophize or we fear the worst. And in my opinion, that is when we fear it, and when we also fear the power of or the expression of our own shadow. And Kali is very much a dark goddess, not only because of her skin tone, but because she is the dark one who is unafraid to venture into the darkness, to embody the shadow, to embody the chaos in order to protect and bless the light. And this is why I find that only those, in my opinion, who are resistant to or afraid of the shadow fear working with the dark goddess such as Kali. I know that at the point that she was coming to me most strongly, I really did not know how to handle my shadow. It held a lot of trauma for me, and it was starting to unravel, but I didn't know how to approach it. I didn't know how to find the power in it for myself, although I was very adept at doing that for and with others as an energy healer. To do it myself, and especially to do it without a support system in the physical world, felt very overwhelming. And this is when Mahakali started coming to me most strongly. In the moments where my trauma could not be suppressed anymore, she started screaming, this visceral scream. Matter of fact, I would physically see her. I would see her standing on roofs and screaming. And you get this even in the iconography where she presents with fiery eyes. Sometimes her eyes will emit or eject redness or fire. Some people have described it as laser technology. Her nostrils are said to breathe in and out fire. We have this beautiful red smoke that you see coming out from her necklace here that I have added in energy, because that red can be sacred. It can be part of the blood connection that we're going to talk about in her story later. But she is fierce, right? She wears a garland of dripping demon heads or skulls. Her hair is most often unkempt and very dark. Matter of fact, when I work with Kali, I find that I embody this thing where my hair seems to take on a life of its own and is not the way that I am used to having it. So if you are someone who eventually works with the goddess or does work with the goddess in such capacities, that may be something that validates your experience as well. But I was seeing her in all these visceral ways, right? And you can see her that way or not. It depends where your gifts lie and which ways she chooses to come through to you. You can see her, you can feel her, you can hear her, maybe even smell her. But this is the way she was coming through, and it did scare me at first, but I had and was containing so much fear within my body, within my person, within the trauma that I didn't know how to let go of myself, that she kept screaming and she kept crying for me. She cried for all the ways that I was either crying or afraid to allow myself to cry. And matter of fact, in the months when I finally let her in, I would either do cry or scream therapy and just be uncontrollable, go back to this primordial form of emotion expression in order to get out what I had suppressed so much. And I don't say that to scare you. That's not going to be everyone's experience. But I say that and I share that so you understand that those things can be considered normal depending on how much energy or how much trauma you carry and how much you are willing to express it, or ways that you are able to express it or cleanse yourself from it, as well as let the goddess in. And I want to let you know also that when you allow yourself to work with her or be supported by her, it's pretty well known in most forms of Hinduism and paganism, because of course pagans work with Mahakali as well, that she can grant the most auspicious blessings to her devotees and to her children, because those that are willing to work with her, those that are willing to go into her shadow, or their shadow rather, become fearless. When you can do this, when you can face your fears, when you can face your trauma, and by all means, I'm not encouraging you to do that alone, because that can be dangerous depending on the trauma that you've carried. Please, please reach out and ask for help, not only from the goddess, but from others if you need to. Reach out and ask for help from trained therapists or from energy healers that are trauma informed like myself, which is not an encouragement that you have to work with me, but I know that facing such things, facing such deep aspects of the shadow and trauma, can be dangerous if we don't have have the proper support system. So please, no matter how strong you believe and know your connection with the goddess to be, know that it is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength to be able to ask for and call in, invite and incorporate the right and trustworthy help as well. So a little PSA disclaimer, something that I wish I had done and known earlier in my life. But back to full circle, those that are willing and able to do this, those that can face the shadow, face the grief, face the trauma, face the darkness, face the demons, if you believe in that, she will stand with you and you will come out the other side without those fears and with all the empowerment that the goddess can grant you. You will be granted auspicious boons and blessings and knowledge, right? Because she is also a goddess of knowledge. She is connected with the crown chakra, right? Throughout these days of the Navadurga and the Navratri, we have been connecting the goddess and working our way up the chakra system. And yesterday, we incorporated the third eye with that form of the goddess. But today, we work with the crown. And that is so crucial and vital to me, because not only one of the ways that the goddess came into being, which we're going to talk about, but because the crown is an area that we often work ourselves up to in energy work, in tantra, in kundalini, in energy healing, in order to connect with our aspect of the divine. I believe that we are all parts and aspects of the divine, and that crown chakra can have helmets on it, can have blockages on it, can have darkness or clouds or energy attachments that can cloud our judgment or our ability to use our third eye or our ability to call energy down through the crown and ground it here into physical reality and the physical world. So while Kali would probably present as a root chakra goddess to some people who were not informed about her other connections. And although she can be very grounded and she can help ground your anger or your power, knowing her connection to the crown chakra can help you to realize that through knowledge and through the power of fearless use of that knowledge, you can accomplish anything. You can overcome any darkness. You can overcome or defeat any demon, whether you believe that to be external or internal, and you can rise in your true power. And although that is a process for everyone, and to a certain extent that's a process that I'm still going through, remember that we do this in an upward spiral. And the goddess, once you are one of hers, in my experience, she will be with you for as long as you want, need, and allow her to be. It is one of my most treasured things that I can consider her a mother goddess, the mother that I really never had support like in the physical world. And knowing her, knowing that she, whose name is feared by all darkness throughout all three of the worlds and all of the worlds, is on my side, has been an immense comfort. And while yes, sometimes seeing her or getting a sign from her still triggers me a little bit, because I think, what shadow work are we going to have to do now? What demon or negative or limiting belief system are we going to have to overcome? What aspect of change are we working through? She's always there to laugh lovingly, to remind me of the power of fearlessness, to remind me of her love and support, and to remind me that darkness need only have power if we continue to give it power. And so whatever darkness is to you, if you have perceived that negatively, remember that there is always also a light side of darkness, and Kali can be that. Kali is in fact my favorite example and embodiment of that, because although she appears dark, although she is dark to those who are quote unquote dark or negative or demonic, to her children, she is the most loving mother that there is or maybe ever could be. And while she is connected with other aspects of goddess, in my opinion, which I'll talk about, I definitely have a soft spot for her, as you can tell. And I encourage you to harness your own power through exploration of how she uses, emits, and shares hers. And with that basically love letter to her, you can see that I am biased, although I try not to be. I mean, I try to present the information as unbiased and non-dual a way as possible, but she quite frankly saved my life, and I will always be grateful to her. And I hope that exploring her and coming to understand other aspects of her personality can help you to save your own life, or to work with another form of goddess or god or her in the ways that will do you service and you justice, and will help with your service in the world, whatever that is. So with that, let us move on. Kali is also the master or the mistress of time. And so we have this other aspect of her name, 𝓳𝓹𓂓𓋴�, because that quite literally translates to devourer of time. Kal in Sanskrit means time, and she is a master or mistress of what is known as the Kali Yuga as well, which is a period that we are in. You may have heard me speak about this before, but I'm going to go into it again briefly, because currently at the time of this recording, we are in, for the past few hundred years at least, and for a little bit of the foreseeable future, the time period or the sector known as the Kali Yuga. And this is a way to measure time. This is known as an age, an astrological age. In the West, we would most correlate this to how we know the astrological ages to be with Western astrology, which is how we know that we are moving into the age of Aquarius, let's say. But in Vedic tradition and Hinduism, we measure that through the yugas. So in the West, we know that we've been in the age of Pisces, which was ushered in by Christ, which is also why, by the way, we use the Jesus fish, or the fish of Pisces, or the fish hats that are worn by the church as a symbol of the age of Pisces that we are in. Previous to that, in Western astrology means of measuring, we had the age of Aries, which was ushered in by Moses, and the ram's horn, which is why our Jewish friends can call in the next aspect of their new year, celebrated during the Rosh Hashanah holidays, by blowing the ram's horn still. But again, in the Vedic tradition and the Hinduism tradition, we measure these ages through what is known as the yugas, Y-U-G-A-S. And the Kali Yuga is known to be this time of darkness, this end of the cycle, right? Also associated with that sacred number of 9, or the sacred ending of a cycle. And this is the time of the most upheaval, the most chaos, the most darkness. It's also a time when there's tremendous awakening out of the ways that we have allowed that darkness to interplay throughout our worlds, throughout our cultures. It's the time when the powers that be become the powers that were, if they were not incorporating power in an honest and integrous way, which of course sounds very familiar. Those things start to fall. Those empires start to fall. Those aspects of reality start to break down. And they can do this by means of what appears negative, or appears to be people being hurt or killed or taken advantage of, or natural disasters, right? Because the planet goes through this as well. But this can also be done by means of a lot of light workers and shadow workers waking up to their abilities, to the truth of reality, to the truth of oneness and consciousness and all that is, and working with deity and source and the instruments that create reality and allow it to continue in a way that ushers us into the next age. So Kali is a master of this. She can also be worked with to help heal your relationship with time, with Lord Shiva, her beloved. They are masters of time, and I know that working with them has helped me heal my relationship with time, because remember, when we work with spirit, spirit lives outside of time. Reality creation lives outside of time. Even the stars themselves, in terms of physical science, live outside of time, because time operates differently from the outside world, outside of our sphere of earth or our sphere of reality. It's why even traditional scientists will relate to you that when you look at the stars, you are looking back in time. It's why the sun takes at least 8 seconds to send its sunlight here to us on earth, right? There are so many ways that we can play with time, and timeline work is one of my favorite things to do as an energy worker. So I encourage you, if you've had a relationship with time that seems skewed or unhealthy, or you feel like it's against you, work with Mahakali or Lord Shiva, or both of them together. My favorite thing to do is work with them as mom and dad. I definitely feel like their daughter. You can think I'm crazy for that or not, but I have been very much resonant in it, and I know that there are a lot of other people who feel that as well. And work with that healing aspect of time. Remember that the Kali Yuga is also a time of a lot of Saturnic energy. Saturn is a time of karma. This is a time when karma wants to be paid. And Saturn energy, or Shani as it's known in Hinduism, can be very dark and dense. There are a lot of, in my experience, negative or dark or taskmaster beings that resonate with Saturn. Saturn, of course, resonates with the day of Saturday or Saturn Day, which is why in Hindu tradition, a lot of people will also wear black to protect themselves on a Saturn day. It's also why working with Mahakali or one of Lord Shiva's aspects as Hanuman is encouraged when you are working through Saturnic or karmic energy, or when you are going through periods of Saturn return. So Saturn returns happen to individuals between usually every 28 to 32, 33 years of life. So the Saturn return is most popular to happen to people during their late 20s, early 30s. This, by the way, is the period that Kali came through to me most strongly. But people forget that Saturn returns can happen again if you have a long life. So every 28-ish to 32-ish years, you will have these periods of Saturn return where you will be called to close down karmic cycles where life appears chaotic and to be breaking down, because you are called to pay up on your karma, learn the lessons that you may have been putting on the back burner, and move forward and create a whole new life or reality for yourself. And working with Kali during this time has been exceedingly powerful for me and for a great many others that I know. So if you are going through or about to be going through a Saturn return, or you know someone who is, look into working with Kali and or with Kali and Hanuman. I am sure that that will be helpful to you. And I did promise some of my clients that I would speak about that. So hello, thank you for being here. It's also a time when, of course, shadow work becomes important, because during Kali Yugas and during Saturn return parts of life, we are called to not let the subconscious run the show anymore. This is why we have so much connection with awakening, with learning about consciousness. This is why even books from a few hundred years ago start to become relevant again, because every 100-ish years or so, there are big gaps of awakening where this material starts to be channeled and starts to come through again to let people know and remind people the power of the subconscious. Of course, now we know that as the shadow, thanks to the work of Carl Jung. And when we can explore the subconscious and marry the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious all together, then, in my belief, opinion, and experience, we can have true power in connecting with our higher selves, with the higher realms, with God, source, deity, however you see that to be, and with aspects of great healing, actual perfect health, and manifesting or reality creation. So I have personally not seen people who can successfully manifest if they are carrying a lot of wounding in their shadow. I believe that that is why we are so called to energy healing and to exploring the shadow, because as we are projecting our souls into our bodies, into our avatars, into our lifetimes, into the aspects of this world, remember that we are doing so in what I see as a sort of lens. And if we have a lot of karma, if we have a lot of trauma or wounding on our soul, whether we believe that to be from this life or other lives, the light that we are working to project from our higher selves and from God's source deity into our human selves, into our embodiments, into our lives, and then the light that we are being called to shine into our realities or into our creations or our manifestations can shine through these wounds, first and foremost, like putting a clip of film over a lens, right? And so in energy healing, we learn to clean that lens. We learn to control what strip of film we are putting on it so that we are no longer allowing the shadow or the subconscious or the external forces or the external programming to run the show and to project on or interfere into us, our energy or reality or the realities that we are trying to create. It's why I find my quantum work and my quantum and 𝑓 energy healing and inner child healing to be so necessary and be so powerful. And Kali, as well as another one of her aspects, also helps me in this, because I know that if you're here, you probably either resonate as a consciousness expander or a light worker or a shadow worker, perhaps a witch, and you feel that you are here on mission to make a better world for yourself, for your family line, and for others around you. And it can be difficult in my experience to do that if we are not also simultaneously working on us and ourselves and our lens. So Maha Kali can be a great one, or any others that you are called can be a great one to work with about that. By the way, if you are someone who is not used to seeing goddess or god present themselves to you in a visible aspect, you can work with them in terms of color. So during Navratri, we have colors of the day, and Kali's day color is the gorgeous royal blue, like you see Claudia illustrated here. It can also be black, as she is known as the dark one, and sometimes white as well, but royal blue is primarily the color of the day. The red color also portrays prayer and can assure that devotees and daughters and sons of Kali will be protected from harm. So if you are meditating with this imagery that is of the painting Claudia created and the extra energy that I have put on there, I encourage you to look into the smoke and see that gorgeous red smoke coming out the base there, and imagine it as coming around you and being an embodiment of your prayers and becoming one with physical reality as you need it to or need it to be. So with all of that, let us also get into some other aspects of how Kali was formed and some of her more traditionally known associations. So she actually is associated with the planet of Saturn, but as I said, she is not Saturn. She is not Shani. She is not that Saturnic energy. She is the one who can come forward to help us through that Saturnic energy or that darkness. She can help you turn your darkness into something that is not harmful to you or others, and embody it in a way that is enjoyable and powerful for you and the ways in which you believe you are meant to help and heal yourself and the world. She also is associated with tiger skin in many occasions, as you will also see her beloved Lord Shiva sit upon a tiger skin, as you will also see many illustrations of Maha Durga riding either a lion or a tiger. But actually, Mahakali does not ride either of those. She rides a mule, which I always found funny because I started getting all of these mules coming to me. Some of you may know I do spirit animal medicine as well in my shamanic practitioner work, and I couldn't place why I was getting mule until I realized that it was coming from Mahakali and a sign from her. So that's just another side note so that you know that the goddess can come through to you in many ways, and gods as well. She is also known to be a destroyer of all and any demonic entities, energies, ghosts, evil spirits, negative energies. They flee upon her arrival. On the mule, sometimes she chases them away, but in my experience, even the mention of her name or the use of her mantra can help them flee. Now, it depends on your perception of what you believe demons and darker energies and entities to be. In my experience, they can be external forces and external beings or spirits, or they can be coming from our own projection of the shadow, right? These are what can be known as internal demons. And sometimes we can associate them with being an external element and feel that it's very hard to quote unquote defeat them or overcome them or get rid of them. And in my experience, that's often coming from the fact that we are projecting them or consenting to them in some way. So if you are someone who works with entity clearance, that is something to note. It can be profoundly easier to clear entities, in my opinion, once you realize that sometimes they are coming from you and coming from your trauma or your shadow. So in any event or in any case, Kali is an excellent one to work with to clear these things. And remember that we also want to heal them and heal the part of ourself that allowed them either to come into being, to remain into being, or to interact with us in any capacity. Remember that there are always higher ways to look at things. So sometimes we think that we're fighting demons or clearing energies and entities, and sometimes we can be, but working with Mahakali and her implementation over the crown chakra can also give one siddhis or blessings or boons, particularly that of power, knowledge, even wealth. And if we ask ourselves, how can we see this from a higher perspective, then no matter what we're going through, no matter what we're working to defeat or overcome, it can be done so more easily. Remember that Kali can also be known as Shubhakari, meaning auspicious or doing good in Sanskrit. So clearing darkness in any capacity that we are called to do so can be good. But remember, darkness can also be that yin energy. She can be known as Kaliyatri because of the fact that Kal not only can mean time, but can also mean that dark color. And in divine feminine tradition, yin, or that dark color of the yin yang, is the divine feminine, is the Shakti energy. And it is so because so often when we are impregnated with something or when we are working to birth ourselves or others, there is darkness right before the dawn comes or before the birth comes. And there are other names for Mahakali known as Ratra Devi or Goddess of the Night. There is power in the night. There is power in the darkness. There is power in the darkness before the dawn. And if you align yourself with higher perspective, whether that is with Mahakali or someone or something else, you will always be able to tap into that power, in my opinion. Now, speaking of divine feminine, it is important to remember that Mahakali absolutely can present as the mother goddess. However, Those who are familiar with goddess worship or divine feminine natures know that the goddess often presents, no matter which pantheon she is in one of three forms, so either mother, maiden, or crone. And while she is very familiar and inhabited in the mother position, goddess Kali can also present as the crone because of her depiction in the Mahabharata, the sacred text, which is one of the earliest references to Kali or Kalyaratri. We can see how she can depict as the crone as well, because in the Mahabharata it is said that she presents with a noose in hand, resembling an elderly lady, chanting and standing with bloody eyes, crimson garlands, just this fearsome aspect to show the horrors of war, because of course the Mahabharata is a telling of sacred wars that many Hindus and starseeds in fact also believe to have physically happened in our past or earlier histories. And in this presentation of the goddess and as the crone goddess, Mahakali backs this up as well. But let's get into other ways that she presented. Now, of course, there are so many different tellings of creation stories for any god or goddess. In yesterday's video, you will see that there is one telling of how Mahakali presents and goes to aid another form or aspect of the goddess Durga in demon fighting. Today we're going to be telling a similar story, but remember that you can find her presentation in several of the sacred texts or Puranas. So you can find her in the Skanda Purana, you can find her in the Devi Bhagavata Purana or the Varaha Purana. She, of course, again, is also known in the Mahabharata. But in the story that we're going to be telling, we are going to be illustrating how she comes to be known with the crown chakra, because in many of her presentations and her initial presentations, she stems from the head of the other aspect of Devi of Parvati, which is why she is associated with this crown chakra. Some say, and in some of the imagery that she has given me about herself, that in these times of great need, in these times of great fear or great anger, when the head sometimes feels so overwhelming, like it's going to explode, like it's going to split, like that imagery that we get in cartoons where steam or fire is pouring out of someone's ears, that is when the goddess's head or crown chakra opens and presents Mahakali coming out of it. So in the most popular probably telling of this story, we have a time in history where a couple of demons invaded the realm known as the Deva Loka, or the realm of existence where the demigods are known to live. And these demons were angered by Lord Indra killing a member of their demonic family. And so these demons took power and killed so many of the devas, killed so many of the sacred beings located in those realms, and then really started to take over the three worlds. And then Lord Shiva and Parvati and many of the gods started getting prayers. The gods themselves were even concerned, and they were praying to Maha Parvati. She heard their prayer while she was bathing, it is said, and so she created another aspect of herself known as Ambika or Shandi. Now, in that form, she is then said to create from her form as Shandi or Ambika, her crown chakra opening up and presenting the dark goddess Kali. It is also said that Parvati feeling anger and then creating this aspect from herself is why Parvati's pale skin became black in this presentation that then became goddess Kali. And as this Trinity as this additional Trimurti, you might say, Parvati, Shandi, or Ambika, and goddess Kali or Kalatri went after killing these demons. And it is said that Parvati would be stabbing these demons, and Kali on her mule was chasing the other aspects of them away. But something was happening, which is while Parvati was stabbing the demon, his boon or his power was coming out, which is that any time a drop of his blood fell to the ground or fell to earth, as we said in another telling yesterday, this blood would become another demon, which was making him exceedingly hard to kill. And of course, at that time, so many of the other gods had already been killed and were waiting on their next avatars. So it was really up to the goddess, really up to Parvati to save the worlds, shall we say. And this is when it is said that Mama Kali took on her role of having her tongue out and wild. This is why not here in the depiction that we have from Claudia, but in so much famous Hindu iconography and statuary, we have this image of Maha Kali with her tongue sticking out. Now, in some aspects, she is doing that in later tradition to be seen as a sacred feminine rebel, which does not akin itself to, let's say, patriarchal power. But the origins of why she has her tongue out is, in most people's opinions, because of this demon's boon, because of his ability to recreate himself and other demons by the drops of his blood. So what happened was, as Mahaparvati was stabbing him and blood was coming out from him that could have given rise to other demons, Mahakali opened her mouth and drank up his blood, not as a vampire, not in that vampiric tradition that we may be used to thinking of people drinking blood, but as preventative from more darkness spreading or taking root. And this is where I also link Mahakali to another sacred goddess of mine, Mama Sekhmet, in Egyptian tradition. As I said yesterday, I believe Durga and Sekhmet to be the same being in other forms under other names, coming to earth and coming through to us in different traditions and in different time periods as she was needed. And if you are familiar with Egyptian mythology, you will know that Sekhmet also was one to drink up blood in effort to dispel darkness or chaos from the earth. So that's another way that I have been able to connect them. And so when Mahakali was doing this, Parvati was able to finish killing that other aspect of demon, and the two that were the instigators of this event and were still running wild were eventually killed by Mahakali as well. And this is where you will often see depictions of her with two demon heads surrounding her. Those are these aspects of demon that she was able to defeat. When you see her holding up the bloody head of a demon, it is one of these multiple demons. I'm not one who likes to repeat demon names, but you can look them up if you like. I will, however, tell you that their names became combined to form another name and aspect of Mahakali known as Chamunda, which was a combination of two of those demon names to illustrate how she defeated them. This is also how she came to existence, let's say, wearing these bloody heads or these bloody skulls to be fearful to these demons, and also to have her conquests already displayed on her to be a representation to the demon world that eventually she would defeat them, no matter what their boons were, no matter what their powers of multiplications were. And I see that so relevant not only in terms of entity clearance, but in terms of our own internal or mental demons or darknesses, right? Because so often one gives way to the other, one aspect of trigger gives way to the other, and knowing that Mahakali has the power to absorb that can be so powerful when we are working through it. And also the use of her mantra, by the way, and the chanting of her mantra. Sometimes you know what darkness or what demons, let's say, or triggers you are going after in your healing. Sometimes you don't. And I want to encourage you that even if you don't know it by name or by image or by form, chanting and forming a new mental track can help heal those things. So I encourage you to look up mantras of Mahakali. You can do so. There are plenty for free here on YouTube. Find one, find a voice that resonates with you, and know that that can go towards the contribution to not only raising your consciousness, but protecting you and blessing you and clearing your energy field, as well as empowering you and enhancing your knowledge. And with that, my loves, and all of those stories and all of those deep downloads, I am going to close out this session for today. If this has resonated with you, please remember to give this a like, follow if you are in resonance, and catch up with the other aspects of 𝑓𝑋𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛 through the playlist, or check out my other works and spiritual types of offerings and material and channelings. We don't only go into the God and Goddess here on this channel. I am always seeking to connect that with other aspects of healing, enlightenment, and reality creation. So quantum physics and pattern adjustment and all of those things you will find in goodies here on my page. I would love it if you become a subscriber here on YouTube, perhaps a follower on Instagram as well, where I am highly active. You'll find links to all of my places in the video description. If this has helped you and connected you with Goddess and you want to share your love for her, leave a comment if you are so called, or share this video to your socials and to others that at any time may find it helpful as other enlightening ways of seeing and connecting with the Goddess. I also encourage you, if you are called, of course, and you would like to work with me spiritually, remember to check those links in the video description. You can visit my website, 𝑓𝑋𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛 designs.com for energy artworks, enlightened merch items, but also and primarily for my main focus in life, which is spiritual works and sessions. So if you are called, you can participate in quantum and Akashic Records reading sessions with me, other offerings, and so much more. If you are really invested in your healing, in your pattern readjustment, or your consciousness expansion, there is also a link in the bio that you will find to apply for one of my quantum and 𝑓𝑋𝑒𝑛𝑒𝑛 energy healing containers. Those are things that I like to connect with you first and see if we're a good fit, and then build a customized plan and package for you and your soul's needs at that time. So if you would like, I would love to work with more of you in that capacity. And if this or any of my other free works and channelings have helped you and you feel called and drawn and able, absolutely no pressure, I also accept energy exchange and appreciation donations of all amounts, which are really helpful to me in keeping my free channels open and flowing and going. Those are really greatly appreciated. It's by no means a requirement, but if you feel called to bless me in that capacity, I know that it will go to good use in getting more of this information out there. And I thank you so much. Whether we work together in any of those ways or not, I really thank you for being here. I am so proud of you for expanding your consciousness, healing, or connecting with the Goddess or God or God, source, deity, quantum, in whatever ways that you are. And I am sure that you will be blessed for doing so. With that, I will see you next time with Love, Light, and Light Codes. Love, Danielle. #Damsel at @DesenlightedEdits of 𝑑amseldesigns.com. Bye for now.